Welcome to the virtual lunch. Today is Friday, September 17th, and this is virtual lunch number 393. Our guest today is Dennis Kennedy, the interim director for the Center for Law, Technology, and Innovation at Michigan State University, College of Law. He's also the author of Successful Innovation Outcomes in Law, a practical guide for law firms, law departments, and other legal organizations. He's also a leader in the legal industry who I've followed for many years, and it's such a privilege to see you. This is, of course, part of our continuing series on the future of law with Quizlex. Dennis, great to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
It's a pleasure.
Dennis Kennedy, I'm so excited to see you. Tell us about your background, and we'll start with your role at Michigan State University College of Law.
So what I'm doing now is we decided to move to Ann Arbor. And about a month later, I had heard from Ken, who was teaching as an adjunct at Michigan State. And he said that he wasn't going to be able to do that and wondered if I'd be interested in doing that. I was there to be the interim. And so I'm teaching 2 classes. I'm running the Center for Law, Technology, and Innovation, which has a long history, actually, at Michigan State. So it has a really good pedigree. I'm really pleased to be part of it. I'm also teaching a class at University of Michigan Law School called Legal Technology, Literacy, and Leadership. So I'm doing that. It's been super fun. I'm in the process of hiring 3 RAs, designed 2 new classes for this year. So that's the main focus of what I'm doing these days. So hoping to develop the next generation of tech-savvy and innovative lawyers. Alice and I were working on a book on LinkedIn for lawyers, and she had something come up where she couldn't work on it for about a month. And so I was going to write an article on innovation, and then I just kept writing about 3 hours a day for about 2.5 weeks, and I had a book. We're already working with a book designer for the LinkedIn book, so I reached out to him, ended up self-publishing the book right away. So it's one of those things where you're like, I wasn't really planning to write a book, but I was just writing, and then the book came out. I went back, and Alice and I finished the LinkedIn book after that. One day I realized that I was not a lawyer who sometimes wrote articles, but I was a writer who also practiced law. The writing piece, content creation, is something that is part of what I do. As I look at the next few years going forward, that creative element is one of my focus areas. So books are hard to do and to sustain the effort, but the self-publishing through Amazon Kindle is pretty cool. Alice and I had this idea that the people were doing these things called social media for lawyer, and it'd be like a 50-minute CLE where you're trying to cover all social media in 50 minutes. And it was just ridiculous to think about. And then we said, what if we did just one that was focused on LinkedIn? We had a hard time talking people into letting us do that, but we did it for the ABA, and we had 350 people come to the first one that we did. There's an idea there for a book. And so in the 3rd round of that book, and we moved away from it being a how-to book to what's the approach that you want to take? How do you want to be strategic about LinkedIn? And the new book looks at it from a lot of different angles, but we moved away from being a how-to technology book to being more about what are the outcomes that you want and how do you achieve those? That book's been fun, and we put together an online course so people can get the principles out of the book. That's been pretty cool. So innovation for me, I look at the customer side first to say, what is the problem or the job that the customer wants to have done? What are their pains and gains around that if they're able to solve that? And does your idea come even close to matching that? When you look at that and you get really into the weeds on it, but in other ways, it becomes really almost at a gut level. Because I would say that a lot of people, if you look at what they want to accomplish and the gain they want is a great annual review. The pain they want to avoid, they don't want to lose their job. They don't want to be embarrassed. A GC does not want to be embarrassed in a meeting with the other C-level executives because he doesn't know certain information. If you start to say, if I'm building an innovation tool for that GC, and I understand what really affects him or her, what's on his mind, then I can say, oh, if I give them a dashboard type of approach where before they jump into the meeting or a report that says, here's my legal spend to this year, here are the numbers, how it compares to last year, then I know that when they get called on in that C-level meeting, they're not going to be embarrassed. And so that is a very desirable outcome. The 1,500 word article was my best platform. Alison Joes, who I've co-written with a lot, would tell you that writing a book is not my favorite thing. Twitter has been super fun for me. I didn't think I could do it, and now I really enjoy it, and it's helped everything else I've done, from emails to text to the ways I write, to be like more direct and focused. I've been blogging since 2003, so the blog format is also a good one for me, but typically I like doing articles. Sometimes I don't usually write in this approach that much, but the 300 to 500 word range I'm really good at, but I don't typically write in that area. I don't have the right outlets for that. With a book is a classic example of this. If on your to-do list is write book, it is really difficult to accomplish anything. You want to realize when you're focused on actual tasks rather than projects. So you're breaking it down. So writing chapter 1 is a lot easier than writing book on your to-do list. Writing 250 words today is even easier, but usually when you break it down to tasks as opposed to projects, that makes everything way more manageable. I don't know enough myself. In any room I go in, the room is way smarter than I am. It doesn't matter what my insights are, but basically this whole room together is way smarter than I am. How do we learn to tap into that better? And so the advisory board approach, when I was writing the book, if you asked me, the one thing that I didn't know before I was writing the book that jumped out at me was this whole advisory board notion, internal and external. In Michigan State Center, I'm looking to say, can I do something that would be an advisory board of alumni or a student advisory board or something like that, just to get those outside insights. We talked in my first class about this notion of psychological safety. What do people do in the room? Do you have trust, confidence? Are you willing to show that you don't know things? Can you establish that environment? And so the research that was done most notably at Google said their most successful teams, this was the key factor, was psychological safety. And there's a woman named Amy Edmondson who's done some really cool research and presentations on this. And if you look at that, you go, that Socratic approach, the hyper competitive, don't show any weakness, all those things in law school fight against psychological safety. They're almost like the opposite. And I'm in classes where I want people to be creative and have discussions. In one of the classes that I taught, we went from a new business idea for a law practice or a law business to an actual business plan with a 3-minute presentation. And you want people to be comfortable in the room. And if everything I do is attacking people and in the traditional approach, that's not going to work so well. So what's different now is there's so many outlets. And so what the early bloggers used to say, blogging is really hard work, and especially to do it for a long time. But at the time, that was the outlet you had. So you're like, oh my God, the internet's given me my own printing press. Blogging makes it possible for me to write and send it to an audience immediately. Podcasting gives me my own radio station. YouTube now gives me my own TV station. So now you have so many more options. And what I always tell people is you need to find the one that fits you. What is your medium? And you might have to try a few things. And I would say blogging, you have to be a writer. It works when you have your own voice, which you can develop by blogging, which is why group blogs typically don't work. As Dave Weiner, who created blogging, said, blog is the unedited voice of a person, and successful blogs give you that sense of a person. So typically they're really good writers and they go on to do other things. So I always go to the place that you feel most comfortable. Usually when I'm working with people or I'm teaching people, am I doing it in writing? Am I doing it audio, video? Does it need to be in person? And then that's going to give you some signals about what the best medium is. If you focus on the stuff that you like doing and do that first, that actually is a big help.
Dennis Kennedy, everybody. Fantastic discussion, Dennis. Really fun conversation. We wish you the best of luck with your book. We're honored that you joined us today. I want to thank you and thank Quizlex for supporting our series on the future of law, and wish everyone a fantastic weekend.